different time than the cafes, because I know those are during the day, just to have a chance to learn some basics. And I love that idea, kind of that kernel of thought just got planted, and thought I would just pull together some information and just have a conversation with you about just having a conversation about nutrition basics. And it doesn't even have to be basic. It can be whatever's on your mind. So I'm going to frame it up though about what I'm passionate about. And I am super passionate about nutrition making you feel good. Because I think, you know how going into 2024, if you were at all on social media or listened to the news, it was like, what's in and what's out. Everybody had their in and their out lists. And one of the things that's out for me really is only talking about weight loss and moving the number on the scale. And I think most of the people in the cafe are old enough where we have to think about more than that. We have to think about how the long term looks, and beyond just the outside, the inside. But I am super passionate about nutrition and wellness, but nutrition in particular. It might be a good idea. Hey, Melissa, glad you can join. We're just getting started. Since we have a number of people on, if you wouldn't mind throwing your phones on mute at any time you want to ask a question, take it off mute, but just so there's no additional background noise. But I named the company Food and Mood for the whole reason that I think when you feel good, you have hope. And to me, whether it's feeling good in your heart, on the outside, wherever on the inside, when you've got hope, you're pretty unstoppable. So I'm on a mission to help provide clarity, provide information, provide community around nutrition, movement, and mindset, because we know that it's more, I'd love to say it's all about food, but it's about some of the other pillars. So I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to just have a conversation tonight about what I'm most passionate about. I am going to share the screen, and I'm going to walk you through. We're not gonna do a lot of presentation, but I'm that person that if I don't have a little bit of detail on the screen, I'll just keep talking and talking. So this is a really good idea. This is a great way for me to stay organized. So give me 1 second to where is let me get the right thing pulled up. Are you guys seeing my messy desktop? Okay. Can you all see this Nutrition Essentials up on the screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So let me just walk you through the flow tonight. Okay. So I think I can make just about anything fun, but especially nutrition. So I do think this is going to be great. Just a conversation. I'll say it again, totally informal. This is being recorded, so you have to drop off. Am I being recorded? Yes. No worries. I'll send this to you, and you always have access to me. That's the point of the cafe. I'm your concierge nutritionist. So anytime you want to talk about this, I'm a click away, a text away. But yes, I'll make sure I send this to you and really any other friends you want to share it with. I'm all about spreading the good word. But in part of our fun tonight, I just wanted to share a way of looking at this topic, and how some refreshing thinking, I think, in my point of view on this, that will help you to understand the lens that I'm coming, that's allowing me to kind of bring this information to you. So it's my lens in the world of nutrition. And I think it's most important to get right at the heart of, why the heck should we care? So I want to talk to you about some of the states, or this just really some of the issues in our body that really lead to most of the common chronic diseases. And again, why that should matter, what the triggers are, how can we address that, and really what does this have to do with some key nutritional principles. So I really want to frame it in why the heck should you care by giving you some information about that. So then what we'll do is we'll just talk a little bit about the resources you already have access to. And if you're not part of the cafe, I'm going to give you them anyway. So no worries. It's just my way of helping you to kind of think beyond this call. And I've got some quiz questions. I've got some show and tell. So we'll have some fun. Sound good to you guys? All right. If you can.
Is this a competition? Just tell me now.
Oh, should we? I mean, I do have some swag. Yes. I know. We'll come up with something, but I'm probably going to be asking you to give me thumbs up in the chat just so I know you're alive out there and I'm not putting you to sleep. But okay, in terms of perspective and how we are going to look at the world of nutrition, what we need to be thinking about is, let's start from the bottom. You see this picture here? It's got bananas, it's got oats, it's got oatmeal. I mean, to me, this sends a message, and I just want to help you understand that there is no one size fits all to your plan, whether it's your eating plan or how you're going to get healthy or how you're going to do X, you fill in the blank. It is completely personalized and it will change, and it should change, I think, on a weekly basis, because doesn't life change? Whatever's thrown at you on a given week, your schedule, your kids, your family, your commitments, your stressors, your vacations. So this is an ever evolving thing that needs fluidity. We need to be thinking about taking these principles and adapting them to our life, circumstances, budget. So it is 100% your call. And I really, truly believe that there's something for everyone. We just have to figure out together what can work for you that sticks, that is sustainable. So it's not a one size fits all. We've got to be thinking about this as a personalized approach. And we got to be out with this all in mentality. I 100% believe that that is contributing to depression. I think that it contributes to guilt and shame. There is no one says you have to be perfect, and no one says you have to eliminate your Coca-Cola completely, or your ice cream, or your favorite things. That is just an outdated way of looking at health. And it leads to rebellion. It leads to ricocheting back, the on-off cycle, and it will make you so exhausted. So we are out with that thinking. We're all about calling plays based upon our life and doing what works, but staying healthy. So we're healthy, and it just might mean that we're dialing it up or dialing it back, just given our circumstances. So those are some of the pillars, or just kind of the way that I believe we need to be looking at our nutrition in particular, because I think if we're not, we're really setting ourselves up for short-term success, limited health outcomes, and it's really holding you back. I truly believe that. I think that there's just, we've got to break through all the noise that is out there on the internet and on social media, and make sure you understand that there's a way for you to do this. And the idea is that the more consistent you can be with the tools that work for you is really what success is about. It really might be 10% one week. All you can do is drink more water because you're caring for a parent, or you have life that gets in the way. It doesn't mean that you're off or you throw in the towel. That to me is one of the biggest contributors of failure and why people just feel frustrated. And I also think, yeah, wait for dad to text you, okay? I also just wanted to share with you that some of you who will be listening to this might think that there's some silver bullet here, that there is some element of surprise or hack. And the reality of it is, if that is what you're looking for, honestly, in just about anything that I provide, then I am not your gal, because I do not believe in that. Because I know the science. And if you hear that broccoli is bad for you, you should only eat meat, anything with an extreme point of view that is not nuanced, it's probably not going to work. It's just not, it's not what the science tells us. So, my whole approach to how we'll talk about things today is figuring out how we make it work for you. And, the reality of it is, gals and guys, happiness always wins. So if you decide you're going to go all in on keto, or you fill in the blank, and that is not something that you love or that really makes you feel good, it will be short term. It won't work. You will gain the weight back. You will gain all the uncomfortable feelings. So I'm all about feeling good and being happy and figuring out a way to make healthy work. So I just wanted to share that with you because I think if you were to Google nutrition essentials, you would get so many different points of view, and you'd get probably some pretty boring information. But I wanted to share with you kind of the lens and the approach that I'll take to this topic. And honestly, really is what is a whole core foundation of the Food and Mood Cafe, which is our membership. So, any questions, thoughts, reactions?
Thank you. In all sincerity, I think, it is one of the things that we've been taught, right, is that you need to change and adopt new behaviors, period, and leave whatever was bad, quote unquote, behind. And I really appreciate that. The reality is, maybe it's a Wednesday that was just a really rough day, and a bag of chips is what you need today. You know what? That means get up tomorrow and do a really good job, right? Go back to the
Yeah,
way that you were today, and without the guilt. And I think that that's certainly a way that I I can get on board with.
awesome. Any other thoughts or questions before we move on? All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, 3 killers is one way to get you to show up to a webinar. So but no, in all seriousness, bye honey, drive safely. In all seriousness, I do wanna talk about why you should care, because yes, we need to put plans and put some strategies in place that work for you and build it around things that you enjoy. But we have to be thinking about what's at the heart of all of this, like no pun intended, because you'll hear me talk about cardiovascular disease. But I want to have some real talk about this because it's something you need to take seriously. The only real way oftentimes you find out if your health is bad is when it happens. And so we have a lot of controllables, the things that I mentioned, nutrition, movement, and mindset. But it's important to understand why. And when you look at these bubbles, it really could be a cycle. There are 3 states essentially that drive the top 10 diseases that lead to morbidity, lead to death. And this state is oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistant. And they're kind of bumping into each other because they start to overlap. One leads to the other, and it gets a little confusing. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the science, but I do think it's important for you to realize a few things that are happening. And so these states all sort of influence and drive, again, all the diseases we hear about that are the top killers that people die from: heart disease, cancers, vascular disease, and other things. So we'll get to that. But just so you're aware, like, oxidative stress is really all about imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants. Those are molecules involved in oxidation in your body. So oxidation in itself is a good process. It's when there's stress. And that stress occurs by varying triggers that you'll see on the next screen. But it's this imbalance of having more free radicals than antioxidants that leads to DNA and tissue damage, which then trickles down into increased risks and just disrupted processes and chronic disease. So it's all about oxidation and then it becoming imbalanced with more free radicals than antioxidants. And that process is really involved. It's very scientific, but it's involved in how you move, like when you take bites of food, how it processes into your body and turns into energy. So then you've got insulin resistance. We'll talk about inflammation too, but insulin resistance, our bodies are beautiful, really honestly, beautiful machines. And there's hundreds, probably more than that, different processes running in your body. And so when you have sugar, your pancreas is alerted. And think of insulin, it releases insulin, and insulin's like the key in your body. And what it does is it unlocks the cells so that that glucose, that sugar, can be used for energy. So we need insulin. But when your body becomes less responsive to insulin, which can happen from a whole lot of things. It can be from having excess weight or body fat, diet, various reasons. It's like being in a room, right? When you're in a room with loud music, it seems loud at first and then it dulls down. You almost like sometimes you don't even notice how loud it is. It's kind of what happens with resistant or insulin resistance. It just stops working. And so what happens is the key to the cells can't get open, and your pathways, your veins and your blood is filled with this glucose that turns poisonous. And then it can start to damage cells. It can also cause inflammation, oxidative stress. The number of free radicals can also make it more difficult for insulin to work. Then you've got inflammation, which is in and of itself a whole nother system or a whole other state of your body. And inflammation is good. It actually is, acute inflammation is something that protects our body. It's a natural defense system. When you have bacteria in your body, you're fighting a cold, inflammation is sending out the good guys to help you with that. But chronic inflammation is when it goes awry. Okay, it's normally a good thing again, so is oxidation. But what happens is your body has persistent inflammation. And I'm not talking like a day or two, months and years. So there's this chronic state of being inflamed inside your body, in your bloodstreams. And what happens is it starts to damage tissue. So that inflammation, if you have a state of inflammation, it can start to affect your body's ability to produce insulin. So all of these states are interrelated, but I would say 9 out of the 10 diseases that lead to death are related to inflammation, oxidative stress, and insulin resistance. And the triggers for these are really a lot of the things that we talk about in the cafe. But I wanted to share a little bit of this just to understand like why we're going to go all in on nutrition, but they can be a variety of different things. And I put the top ones because these are the things that, I mean, we should be aware of, right? So the top, like there's there could be a lower level of chronic inflammation or just issues that are brewing, and it might show up as common everyday symptoms that we chalk up to maybe being busy, overwhelmed, like fatigue, being sick, having that brain fog, depression, even anxiety. So the top layer are these common everyday things that sometimes because we want to push through or we feel like we need to prioritize other things that we just ignore. It's not the signal. And then over time, those symptoms or these issues persisting then lead to these diseases that you see here. There's cognitive or neurological disorders, Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all of these diseases, and through, many and hundreds of studies have shown that there's a link to predominantly inflammation, oxidative stress, or insulin resistance. So I just wanted to start here because I think it's just really important. One, because I know that sometimes we ignore some of these symptoms, but they should be clues. These are all just clues for you, and just to understand the underlying importance of um, just recognizing these symptoms. And then some of the triggers that might, again, lead to some of these states are, of course, like poor diet. We've talked about poor diet, But you'd be surprised how much chronic stress, and it can be like emotional stress, it could be physical stress, it could be all varying forms of stress, being significantly overweight, sleep, lack of exercise, alcohol, having gut issues, not environmental toxins, lack of movement, smoking. So there's all of these factors. So we're not, it's not only nutrition. It's so multifaceted, but when we think about what I think is super empowering is that there are many of these things, these triggers on the screen that you have control over. But don't underestimate some of these, which I'm speaking from my own experience, like having 4 hours sleep last night. So, but it's all about looking at the bigger picture and paying attention to some of these symptoms. We're going to shift gears a little bit more around nutrition. Before we do that, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Still here, thank you.
You. All right. So where do we start? I mean, like I mentioned, some of these aren't surprises, but what I also want to share with you is like, I am not suggesting, because some of you, I mean, in the cafe, I've got people of all walks of life and all different ages. Some people are on this scale of being super healthy. Some people are just learning. And so some of you might look at this and be like, whoa, there's a lot of change. I think one of the messages I really want to make sure you take away is, remember, we're not talking about eliminating. That to me is the extreme. And it's all about the dose, okay? I just think you just need to think through, like, if you have a hot dog at a ballpark because you want to take your kids to see a game and you're not having a hot dog or two every night, is that going to kill you? Of course not. So it's all about the dose and thinking again in a realistic way. But I think it's helpful to think about some simple lifestyle changes that you could think about beginning to incorporate, and small changes, like just that you start with. But I think you could just take one of these ideas and start to do more of those, and you'd just be surprised at how your body reacts. I know some of you I've worked with for a while, and you go on vacation and you enjoy yourself and you feel really icky when you come back, and we talk about what can you change. 3 days without having alcohol, or you're eating clean, you're not eating anything in a bag. It takes a couple days for your body to shed the excess water, and then it starts to compound after that once we add more consistency. So your body's a pretty awesome machine. And again, we're not saying never do these things. It's just some food for thought that these decisions have a huge impact. And we're going to talk about why. But one of the things you can think about doing is just buying less bagged and boxed food and really shopping on the corners or the edges of the grocery store, or even think about taking a lunch instead of going out to lunch. Because one of the things that's, to me, a really underlying obvious opportunity is that when we eat out, there's a lot of hidden calories, because almost every single restaurant, especially the fast food, or what do they call those? Like faster foods, like the Chipotles, even that appear healthy. There's all these at most every, and not most, 99.9% of restaurants are cooking with seed oils, which are usually the saturated or trans fats, include the trans fats, and are super unhealthy. The bottom line is we're getting extra calories even when we think we aren't. So one of the takeaways might be, hey, maybe I bring a lunch instead of going out to lunch. Or I look at simple ways that I can cook more. Or maybe instead of my snack that I'm grabbing a bag of something, I'm just simply grabbing an apple. So thinking about going out less, um, hitting the drive-through less. I mean, if you took one idea and just did not hit the drive-through, or just reduced and limited the fried foods, it's not a coincidence that the number of fast food restaurants on the rise and our obesity and our other chronic health issues, that is not just a crazy coincidence. I mean, it's cheaper. It's got hardly any nutrients in that food. packed with fat, highly ultra processed. So if you said, hey, Amy, what is the most important thing? I would say, it's hard for me to say one, but I would say just stay away from the fried and convenience foods. You don't even have to add a lot of healthy foods in. You probably would because you'd have to replace with something, but there are some like big rocks here. So I have a feeling that most of this group, you all aren't doing a lot of that, but even just even some on the if you go to the opposite end of the spectrum, like take alcohol, for example. I'll just share my own story. Like I've been on a health journey over the past couple years, and I have been on a path to limit my alcohol. I'm what you call sober curious, and I did that because I just hated the feeling. Even a couple glasses started to react with me where I just had a kind of a gray cloud over my head. And for me, it was always difficult to just have one glass because I'm splitting a bottle usually with my husband. And I'm the kind of person that when I have one, I feel really good and I want another. So it's like a couple glasses of wine usually. And that for me is like a gateway to snacking. Then my stomach didn't feel good. It just wasn't working for me. So I've been on a path to just reduce that. And I've been healthy for the last, I mean, pretty healthy for the last 4 or 5 years where I don't do a lot of these things on the screen. And just by eliminating the alcohol, I have dropped 13 to 15 pounds. And I'm not that weight's everything, but I'm just sharing a solid, like a metric with you. And for me, just I turned 50 recently and I just feel like I've got more energy. And so it was a simple change. It seems simple. I mean, I wasn't drinking it even every night. It was just every once in a while, but I didn't like that pattern and how I'd feel and how less productive, all the stuff. But even small changes like that, a swap of a bread, or maybe choosing to have a mocktail one night instead of both nights. It's small changes. The cumulative effect of that can be really, really significant. So we'll talk a little bit more about we're gonna get into some of the nitty gritty, but so what we want to talk about is really maximizing some of these macronutrients and minimizing some of the other ingredients in foods, and also just some of the other aspects of how we can eat. So we really want to go all in on fiber and protein in particular. And really, I actually do think there's an order: protein and fiber, and then some of the healthy fats in moderation. And so Angie and a few others that may have joined, I can't see. So I have a book that I provide when you sign up for the cafe. It's an ebook called Fit and Full, and it breaks down a lot of those details. I'm going to share that with you just so you can see on the screen some of the information. But there are a lot of reasons why we want to eat more protein, and there's probably 3 or 4. But when we eat protein, and we should all be eating at least, for most of us, rule of thumb is at least 100 grams a day. And that's really not hard to do. I break it all down for you. But the reason why we want to go in on protein is when we're making protein the star of every single meal, a lot of great things happen. One, most importantly, we have steady energy. When you are eating a carb only, a muffin, a bagel, an English muffin, toast, whatever it is, a bowl of pasta, and it is absent of protein, that is spiking your blood sugar. And you might initially have that feel good food coma effect, but then your blood sugar will drop and you will lose energy and probably get hungrier and hangry. There's also other benefits of having protein centric. It's great if you're moving and you want to have muscle repair, you want to add muscle to our frame, which every single woman on this call should be focused on that, regardless of your age, because that is how you will live longer, is getting muscle on your bones. I don't care if you're lifting a Gatorade, a 2-pound weight, or a 30-pound weight. You all should be finding a way to lift, do some sort of resistance training. Because again, if you have muscle on your body when you're in your 70s or in your 80s, you won't fall. You will be in a better situation to prevent disease. So while you're moving, you need to have protein to build muscle. And protein has also been shown for helping you to have better clarity, and a lot of other benefits. It helps your metabolism, helps balance hormones. Some of us on this call are interested in balancing our hormones. So protein is a big one. And when we eat carbs, we want to look for carbs that have fiber in them. So we're looking for, when we have carbs, that they're having maybe like a minimum of 3 to 4 grams of fiber. I'm going to show you all this is spelled out. I'm just giving you the highlights. And then we're going to look to increase healthy fats, things like a little bit of olive oil, avocado, nuts. Why are we going to do that? Because they've got really healthy fats. They've got omega-3s in them, and those are great for our heart, and have there's a lot of great research about our brain, mental health, but the combination of all of these makes you feel good. I have never heard of anyone eating, when they eat protein, fiber, and a little bit of healthy fat, go binge after. You're satisfied. You're not gonna want to grab the bags of chips or go, you are satisfied. Very rarely does someone pig out on protein and fiber and just eat too much. It's just almost hard to do. So there's huge benefits if weight loss is a goal of yours, reducing cravings. So every meal and snack, you should have protein. In fact, I think if you eat an adequate breakfast, and if you don't eat breakfast, that's cool too. Your meals of the day, where you're having an adequate amount of protein and some fibrous vegetables, you don't even want to snack. And it'll be unnecessary. So by default, you'll be consuming less and then probably see some benefits. So the left side of the screen is all we're about, because I don't know about you, but I love food. And I can show you places on the cafe and other places, like there are great, easy ways to make food, protein, fiber, and fat taste really, really good. So you won't need the right column. You don't need the right column. So you just want to look to minimize sugar. And we're going to break that down. I want to show you some labels, because I mean, sugar is the risks of sugar, or the dangers, are what we talked about in the previous screens, right? It's common sense. When you're adding sugar, and for those of you who care, a woman, the American Heart Association says her total amount of sugar every day should be about 25 grams, just as a food for thought. Hardly anybody, I think, a lot of Americans have struggled to meet that, but sugar's everywhere. So I want to show you where and how, and just help you understand that. But when we are adding sugar unnecessarily into our diet, or choosing foods, even things that are disguised, like a bread, you go to make yourself a turkey sandwich. You might choose a bread that has all sorts of added sugar, no fiber. So we're gonna bust up some of these labels to make sure you understand. But when we're eating excessive amounts of sugar, our blood sugar's spiking, and that is normal, by the way. When it is normal for your blood sugar to spike, and it happens when we eat. We just don't want it to spike. Have these big spikes and peaks and valleys all the time, and have too high of a spike. So again, having the protein and the fiber minimizes those big spikes. But anytime we're adding sugar, we're adding glucose into the bloodstream, and all of those effects happen that we talked about. And then there's these fake stuff and additives. I mean, I think it's just important to consider that, because no one really knows, like sugar, alcohol is an example, or some of the other things. These are foreign things we're putting into our body. It's hard to completely remove that. It's just something to be aware of. I mean, I would say that's the lowest on the priority, because if you're eating the other things, doing more of the other things, you'll probably be eating less fake stuff and additives. But I mean, being a nutritionist, I have to put that on there. And then we've already talked about the fast and convenient foods. So all makes sense, right?
Yes.
I want to show you, though, while I've got you here. So this is the Fit and Full Healthy Eating Playbook. I call it a playbook because I got worksheets. Most of you know, like I've got a learning background. So never just gonna just talk to you. So we're gonna be chatting here a little bit, but you'll see that there's like worksheets and things. So I just wanted to show you a few things that will be helpful. So I like sports, and I just think this is a great way of thinking about how we're going to approach healthy eating, is that like they're plays. They're very practical things that I believe are important. And we're adapting them. Remember how we talked about? I mean, I don't know about you guys. I was on vacation last week. This week I'm working 60 hours. So, I mean, every week's, I mean, it's just, that's life, right? And there's a lot of an unexpected things. So every week we're gonna like think about, okay, well, what's the play that I can call this week? So there, I break this down on just a strategy, and it's diet agnostic, because you might say, I love meat. Oh, what about intermittent fasting? Those are all tools. Those are all personal preferences that I can help you fit. If you're like, I really want this, can I make this diet work? I mean, the underpinnings of the the really good diets out there will have a focus on these types of plays. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I just wanted to show you the breakdown because it's a resource that you immediately get. I show you some pictures of top protein picks. Same with fiber. So can we just talk about fiber for a second? Because fiber doesn't get enough attention. And I mentioned fiber a little bit, but I don't, I think in terms of from a science and a nutrition science perspective, there's probably the most amount of research that's been done that correlates to decreased risk for disease, all diseases, cancers, heart disease. And it really goes down to fiber. Like fiber is really a real critical part of your diet. And most people, especially women, do not eat enough fiber. And fiber is not, there's several different kinds of fiber, but they're generally bucketed into soluble and insoluble fiber. And we just got to be eating more of them within the context, though, of how your body reacts. So, but we want to be eating fiber, both kinds, because the soluble fiber, this is the fiber that actually dissolves in your intestines. The fiber gets then gets fermented, and it turns into short chain fatty acids, which produce good bacteria for your gut. So the gut microbiome is all the rage. Having a healthy gut is directly tied to fiber, and you are what you eat. I mean, your 80 to 90% of your feel-good hormones are related to what you're eating and how it's processed in your intestines, and really what your attitude and your mindset and your health is all reflected in your gut. And that can easily change within days. So we want to be eating a lot of these foods you see here, dark colored vegetables. You want to be eating berries. Like, who knew, right? Raspberries, a cup of raspberries is equal to 8 grams of fiber. And as women, we want to strive to get about 25 grams of fiber every day. How will you know? You can just eyeball it, or you can just you can also use free tools like MyFitnessPal. But you don't necessarily have to go those lengths. It's just paying attention. It's making sure you're having some good vegetables. You're not getting romaine lettuce. You're getting darker colored vegetables. You're getting diversity in the fruits and vegetables. And you're looking at whole grains. Whole grains, the grains that have fiber. You're looking at legumes and beans. So all of this is broken down for you. So I just want to share with you, don't feel like you have to memorize anything. And, don't forget that that's why you've got me. So if you're like, hey, I didn't understand something, I'm going to be back in the cafe. For those of you who aren't part of the cafe, I'm in this kitchen twice a week. And if you can't join, I record them, or you tell me your question, or we just talk. So we can work in a email or text format, or just talk live. So don't worry, don't be overwhelmed. We'll figure it out together if you're like, hey, put these pieces together. But let's talk label. And then I'm just going to show you this, and then I'm going to come off screen, and we're going to do some show and tell and have some conversation. But so if you're new to really understanding what you're putting in your body, like this nutrition label reading is really important. I mean, if you're eating fresh fruits and vegetables, obviously, that's just good overall. Don't worry so much about that. Lean proteins, in the Fit and Full playbook, you have it all, it shows you how to figure out how much, etc. But when you're buying foods that are packaged, the government has to declare with approximation. It's not to the specific number. They can estimate, they can round up, but they do have to put the ingredients and they have to put these nutrients here. So when we look at a label, and if you've got something in your kitchen or your pantry, like this would be a great time, like go grab it, check it out. Let's look at what you have. But let me walk you through this. So one of the things we want to look at is it's probably, again, second nature to some of you, but I'm going to show you some sneaky things that some of these manufacturers do. But you want to look at how many servings per container. And you always want to look at the serving size, especially for things like, okay, this is obviously like bread or something, right? One slice. But when you have a bag of nuts, you have a jar of peanut butter, you have what? Pretzels, you have other things. The weight is something you just want to think through because they're always going to say ounces and things like that. But just you can gauge based upon the size, but it's helpful for you to know. And on the right, in this example, they're actually going further to say what the total calories are per container. And then even just some hypothetical situations. So this is super generic. Your calorie intake is 2,000 to 2,500. It gives you a sense by a visual here in that yellow line. Hey, one serving is about what, a quarter or so, or an eighth. My math is wrong right now, but it gives you a sense to start to think about, okay, how much value am I getting out of this food? And then when you see the things highlighted in red, you want to eat less of those, and the things in green, you want to eat more of. So when we look at the fat, you'll start to see the percentage of daily value right there. That's often helpful. If you're just like, hey, is that really a lot? I mean, anytime you see 20 next to fat, that should tell you it's a lot. But for one slice, you're getting 20, almost 30% of your daily value. But anyhow, so you want to be looking at fat. I generally just look overall. If I'm eating an unhealthy fat, I just look at how much fat. If I'm going to eat a healthy fat, like olive oil, I'm just, in both cases, I'm thoughtful about the amount. But when I'm looking at a label for food, especially if I think it's already a healthy food, I don't pay particular like close attention to saturated fat and trans fat. I glance at it because the saturated fat and the trans fats, those are the bad fats. The polyunsaturated, and even better, the monounsaturated fats, those are the good ones. That's what you're going to find in the healthy fats. So just recognize that saturated and trans fats, those are red for a reason. We want to reduce those fats in our diet. And then, yeah, we want to pay attention to sodium, especially if you've got hypertension, you've got high blood pressure, or you just don't feel good when you get a lot of salt. Like that's a lot of salt in this. That's 940 milligrams for one slice. And just again, put it in perspective. It's generalized by a 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day, but this gives you a quick sort of gauge. Oh, wow, one slice is 41% of my daily intake. So just helpful to know. And I tell you what's the most helpful indicator is how you feel, how you feel. So if you feel like you blow up or you feel like you feel bloated, I mean, that's your clue, right? There's your sign. And it's all about recognizing those signs. And if you don't feel good, we do less of that. So total sugars, I look at, and you're always going to see, by the way, you're going to see the carbs will fall under, sugars and fibers will fall under carbohydrate because they are carbs. Sugar and fiber will turn into glucose. They become a carbohydrate. So what you want to be paying attention to me, this is probably one of the most important categories of the label, is you want to be looking at that dietary fiber number. Because the more fiber-rich foods we eat, we already talked about the importance of fiber, but the reality of it is, if it's got some fiber, it's going to fill you up. So I'm going to show you some examples of quote unquote healthy foods that have no fiber, and then you'll feel like you want to snack all day. So fiber takes longer to digest, and so that's helping with keeping your blood sugar stable, but it's also expanding in your intestines and as it moves through your body. So you're feeling full. You won't want to eat. You might not have cravings. So we want to be thinking about making sure we're eating foods that have fiber. Obviously, like protein doesn't have fiber, but the carbs that we're choosing, we want to make sure that they've got some level of fiber. I mean, there's not a magic number. My kind of rule of thumb is 2 to 3 grams makes it worth it for me. That's the way I look at it. Like, what kind of value am I going to get out of eating this? I mean, is it really, or am I just in a state where I had a bad day? But even a bad day, I have just done this so long that
Mm.
what I splurge on or what I enjoy ends up making me feel worse. So I got tired of feeling bad coping with food. So I don't do that so much, but it is a thing. So in general, we want to be thinking about having food that has really decent levels of fiber. Remember, we're trying to aim for about 25 grams a day, if not more. The sugars will be the total number of sugars. And then they, again, by law, now have to put the added sugar. So the added sugar is exactly what it is. The food manufacturer's adding sugar to make it taste better. And so this food has no added sugar. Okay, not bad. So we want to eat more foods that have less added sugar. In fact, like I think you need to pay attention to the total sugars, but if you've got a condition like diabetes or in general, you want to be thinking about weight management because sugar, like foods that have a high level of sugar will be more calorie dense. But in general, like I really zone in on fiber, added sugar, and then protein. So this has this 20 grams of protein, and that's helpful to know. So again, my gauge on how valuable this food is and how it'll make me feel. Am I getting my protein? And for me, I eat between 100 and 130 grams of protein every day. And that means that I like to make sure that I have 20 or 30 grams at every meal. I only usually have one snack a day. And if all of this is overwhelming you, I have broken down examples of what to eat in a day, how to get your protein in. I have all of this on the cafe and places, so it's a handy resource. But we're looking at, again, to me, the most valuable content. I'm gauging about calories, really looking closely at how much fiber, if there's any added sugar, and protein. And those vitamins are somewhat important. I very rarely pay attention to them because I'm already covering myself by eating vegetables. I have a greens drink. I take some multivitamins. And then I also just want to mention to you that, we're also looking at the ingredients because there are plenty of quote unquote healthy options out there. And then we just have to gauge, like, do we want to have, how important, because this becomes a personal preference. How important is it for me to have like more eat cleaner? I think it is, but I mean there are a lot of ingredients in some of our foods and it can still be healthy. Do we generally want to aim for fewest ingredients possible? The more ingredients sort of tend to be more processed. So the more ingredient, the more processed, usually. So sugar is hidden, right? You gotta understand. This says no sugars. Anything with a lose or uh, asulfamane, and by the way, may have a laxative effect. But anything that has that on a label, you should run at. You might need to run after you eat it, but definitely,
Yeah.
but yeah, though that's sugar alcohol, and that's really a personal preference. Those are fake sugars that some people love it. You can always tell an ingredient, by the way, usually most ingredients that have fake sugar, like it's definitely, I can tell with especially protein bars, but I stay away from the sugar alcohol because I feel bloated. I don't feel good after I eat it. So when you see sugar alcohol, I wouldn't be super worried about it. Just know, hey, maybe I try it. And like, this is a sweet. It's just been made into a diet sweet. And how important is it for you to have that? Is that going to give you settle the craving? Or, a rule of thumb for me, if I have a craving, I try as much as I can. When I have a craving, I ask myself, I check, I do the protein test. Do I feel like a piece of grilled chicken? If the answer is yes, then I have some protein, it means I'm actually hungry. If the answer is no, then I'm just like, it's more of an emotional craving. So I will try to go do something different. I'll move, I'll talk to somebody, it's something I just got to work through. But if I actually want to eat my protein, then it generally means I'm hungry. I should just eat more protein. So, all right, I'm going to stop the talking so we can ask questions and just kind of get to a little bit more of the interactive part. What questions or thoughts do you have so far? Good stuff? Anything I'm not addressing? Anything I'm not addressing you want to make sure we get to?
No, I think like for me that was really helpful to kind of run through the labels. I'm sitting here. You said, I knew that we were doing this, ladies. So Amy made a reference. I am a Coca-Cola addict, and have been dieting now for about 3 weeks or so. And it occurred to me, I'm the one that asked for this amateur hour because I look at my Coca-Cola label and it tells me 150 calories. It's Mexican Coke. It's a big bottle of Coke too. I'm like, that's great, 150 calories. I'm thinking life's good. Then I look at my salad dressing that's 130 calories,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, well, okay, so I get the little, the Weight Watchers app because I'm ignorant and I use that to do what Amy already does, she's learned to do. And the salad dressing is 4 points and the Coke is 11 points, right? 3 times as much.
Well, look at your label then. Why don't you tell us what is your label? By the way, I
Yeah.
bought my first Coke ever for demo purposes. I've never purchased a Coke. I raised my children to not like soda. So
Good
look at
job.
the
I
back of
did too, by the way. I'm very proud of that. Okay.
how many servings in your Coca-Cola bottle? Start there.
1 bottle.
Okay. How many sugars?
Oh, this is the big one. Are you ready? Drum roll. 39.
Do you remember what the American Heart Association tells you is the daily level?
I believe it was around 20 or 25 is what you said. Okay. So yes, believe me, I like as soon as you said I was like my head snapped to the bottle, right? I thought, but then again, I look over at my salad dressing, right? And it's got no sugar, which is looks good and all that. And it was one while you were reading the labels, one of the things I've tried to do, if I can't pronounce it, I shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah, good call.
Right? That's, and that's what I looked at that label. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So let's just keep
Yeah,
going on. But it was amazing to me, the difference, because again, if you just go by calories, these two
right.
things are so close, really. Like, what would be the difference between me having a little salad dressing and a Coca-Cola?
So here's the thing that I just want to share with you that goes
Yeah,
back to the beginning of our conversation. So this Coke, having a Coke, this one, by the way, is 240 calories and 65 grams of sugar. It's
there you
more
go.
than double the
Well,
daily.
just for the record, I do drink this because it's better than that, because this is Mexican Coke with real sugar instead of fake sugar. A little bit
Okay.
better.
Yeah. Well, this just so the other things that like are I want you to be thinking about when you make choices on what you eat.
Right.
There's no fiber in this. There's no nutrient.
Yes. Zero. Right.
Here. So your choice and that choice just needs to be really, to me, it needs to be a thoughtful one. It's
Right.
does nothing on that up arrow that we want to try to
Right.
optimize. And
Mm-hmm.
the reality of it is, it's just pure sugar and calories.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not gonna, your stomach might be temporarily full because it's liquid,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're gonna pass that, and then
Right.
you haven't had anything. So there's no nutrients, no
Mm-hmm.
fiber,
Nothing. Right.
bugs on the street, no protein, you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
hungry. And it's going to give you maybe some caffeine, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
a very temporary high, but there's nothing of nutritional value. So I don't
Yes.
I don't want to make you feel bad. I just want to tell you, as a woman who probably needs to be thinking about how you get nutrients, it's just food for
It
thought.
no, it was really amazing because again, like I hadn't really like who reads a Coca-Cola label? I mean, frankly, it's not something I've ever, thought about, but it is protein zero. Not a and my favorite line on the label is not a significant source of other nutrients. You're not getting anything other than the sugar in there. And I'm like, oh, I hate them.
Um, a few other things I wanted to share with you too. So that was kind of an obvious one. A less obvious one to me is yogurt, right? We all think, and I know some of you already know this because I'm a big yogurt fan. I've done this drill, but for the benefit of some of the newer folks, like when you think yogurt, that's like a healthy food, right? And so, Yoplait is a really well-respected brand. I mean, it's out there. This is one container, 140 calories is the serving. One container is a serving. So total fat, 1.5, good. Carbs are 28. Total sugars are 20 and includes 14 added sugars. Kind of a bummer. Like this is almost as much as a candy bar, and I've got 5 grams of protein. So there are many other better options. There's Greek yogurt, which has more protein. There's Greek yogurt that has, I mean, there's definitely some, sorry, I have my contacts in, but they're fading on me, but there's 0 added sugar. There's 0 artificial sweeteners. There's 0 fat and 15 grams of protein in this. So, and by the way, that like there's a great the yogurt aisle is now like the bread aisle. It's confusing. You really got to know your labels because if you like the taste of yogurt, there are drastically better options for you. You don't have to waste your sugar and eat something that can give you a boost of protein. So yogurt's another one. You know, I bought this trail mix for my nieces when they come over. And I got bamboozled on this myself just a couple weeks ago. I thought I like the individual packaged options because the whole open bag thing, when you buy them, like I'm not good, like open bag of granola, anything open bag, you keep dipping, you keep dipping. So like, okay, this is good. They can just take this when they're on the go. And I'm like, okay, it's got, let me look at the nutritional 160 calories. It's got 10 grams of fat. It's got nuts, which I'm going to expect just a little bit of chocolate chips. It's got 10 grams of sugar. It's got only 4 grams of added sugar. It's got 5 grams of protein. So I'm like, you know what? If they're going to go play, not bad for a kid. And, you know, they're going to eat anything with M&Ms. Well, my friend Denise mentioned to me, she goes, this is 2 servings. Those suckers totally bamboozled me. I saw these, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, there's nothing here. If I showed you, it would be in my hand. I mean, I'd be like, in like two bites, gone. And yeah, so this is servings. Yeah, that changes the picture a little bit. So I'm like, yeah, we gotcha. So there's all sorts of things you got to be thinking about. The bread tortilla aisle, so many other great pastas that taste good. Erin actually turned me on to this one, and people in the cafe love it. So, I mean, you have to look at situations where now there's all these healthy alternatives as opportunities to boost, to optimize, to make better. So if you have a wing it type of situation where you need to have a healthy meal and maybe make sure it's got fiber, make sure it's got protein, I think just nowadays with pasta and sauces, that could be in your pantry and you don't have to, there was a time when we used to think that, pasta was off limits, that carbs are bad. And hopefully you all don't think that, but this version of pasta has per serving, and they're all the same servings. They're all usually 2 ounces. So you do have to weigh it dry. I mean, if you just gauge, I'll have half this bag, it's a few servings, but 2 ounces dry is how you weigh it. And some say 3, but it's got 180 calories. It's got 32 carbs, but 8 of those is fiber. No added sugar, and it's got 16 grams of protein. I can get you a box, but I have an Amazon store just for an easy place for people to go look at things. So I can share that with you. But they make a black bean pasta. It might sound gross, but it just looks like black fettuccine. They make edamame pasta. Those pastas, same amount, have 25 grams of fiber. Oh, protein, excuse me, and about 20 grams of fiber. So, I mean, you are full. There's no way you are binging on a big bowl pasta, but you get a healthy sauce. And actually, I looked today at the grocery store. I was looking to show you examples of sauces that were bad, and it was actually hard for me to find them. There's a lot of great sauces. I mean, a couple grams of sugar, okay. But there are jars of sauces that are really like really great quality. If you look, to me, what makes a pasta sauce really good is just looking at the ingredients, because I'm not Italian, but I love Italian food, and I love knowing like it's just tomatoes and olive oils and spices. So, but there are a lot of great sauces that can help you to get to your vegetables and a little bit more fiber. So I think long gone are the days where you look at a pasta meal, but just make sure that you understand that you want to be looking for pasta that has really good fiber. This box of Barilla, I mean, it's not so bad. It's got it has 3 grams of fiber. So, I mean, I have other options that can get me double. And this one has just 1 gram of sugar and 7 grams of protein. So, not horrible, but I'm at a place in my life where I want all those benefits of protein. So, I am making sure that I optimize every time I eat, that I'm not just having a plain yogurt. This is how we want to change our thinking. We don't want to have plain. I remember talking to Laura about this, who's on the call. She's looking to increase our fiber, and she started to have some higher protein yogurt. Like, add some berries to that, add some seeds, add some flaxseed. You take a regular yogurt and you can boost that by 5 grams, 10 grams of protein, and add some really great omega-3 acids and just really great vitamins, and also some additional fiber. So don't go plain. Make sure you're looking to optimize when you eat. Let me see if I have any other interesting little, so bread. So I had this kind of a interesting little experiment I did. So, Dave's bread is a big one that's out there, and everybody likes the taste of it. I do. I think it's great. But when you actually, and I would have thought when I looked at a Sara Lee whole wheat, that I was going to be like, oh, there's a whole wheat. They're going to fool me. This brand actually, technically, by the label, is better than this brand. Who would have thought? So I would, it just, to me, it's a little bit about, a lot about personal preference. But when you look at a piece of Dave's bread, it's got 70 calories, low in fat. It's got 13 carbs, 3 of those fibers. It's got 2 added sugar and 3 grams of protein. I have kind of a slight rule of thumb just to help you. Like, I try to aim to eat foods that have no more than 4 to 5 grams of added sugar. Because when we think about what we're eating, because we might actually be eating more than one component, right? That's just a piece of bread. But if you just, on average, you want to be eating the food that has as low as sugar possible, but it's not always possible. Like, that Dave's bread is a pretty good piece of bread, and it's got a little bit of sugar. This Sara Lee, again, I'm not examining every ingredient. There's probably more. Dave's is definitely a cleaner product, in my opinion, at least by their advertising. They've got a really long list too with words I can't pronounce. So not 100% sure really how clean the food is produced, but this loaf of bread has for one slice 60 calories, so about the same. It has 1 gram of fat. It's got 2 grams of fiber. It's got 1 gram of sugar and 3 grams of protein. So it's got 1 gram of fiber less, which can make a difference. But I would have thought that I don't know, I just would have thought that maybe it would have been worse. So I just wanted to share those ideas with you. I also wanted to share, I've got kids that love pretzels. Yeah, it's a bit healthier because it's not fried. But this food, I used to be the person who always grabbed pretzels in the afternoon, because was working in the 90s when like the low fat thing was the fad. And so, oh, no fat, no fat. So I thought that that was a healthier snack. But when you look at this serving, by the way, it's only 3 pretzel rods, which is hard to do. And you've got 22 carbs, hardly any fat, no fiber, no added sugar, and okay, 3 grams of protein, but no fiber. You're eating pretzels and there's no fiber in this. So that what that tells me is I'm really not going to be feel very satisfied, feel full. Maybe if I dip it with some hummus. But just eating a bag of pretzels, it's no wonder why you eat a little bit, you want to eat more. So hopefully kind of like that snack attack, just realize it's likely because you're having foods that have likely no fiber and not a lot of protein. So what questions do you all have?
I have a question, Amy.
Yeah.
Going back to the yogurt.
Yes.
I have been buying the Chobani plain unsweetened Greek yogurt.
Wonderful.
And with that, I'll put in blueberries and then almond butter.
Okay.
But my question is, yes, I know the moderation is the key, but how do you know if that would be like a good snack or if that would be a little bit too much as far as calories go? Because you're throwing all of that together and it sounds like it's all very healthy, but
Right.
yet sometimes it can give you too many calories.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, our healthy fats are definitely like something we want to be thinking about in moderation. So let me just zoom out a little bit and help you to see some big picture perspective. And then I'm going to give you some ideas that you might want to try that would help you to not spend your calories. Because it's like a spending budget we have, right? Because it
Right.
really is. We do, in my Fit and Full guide, I don't advocate tracking calories, but I do think it's helpful to take inventory to measure once in a while so you have awareness. But if you're eating protein and fiber, you should be getting full and eating about the amount. But I think we all have to understand what our spending allowance is. Otherwise, we might go over budget. So in general, let's just call it our calorie allowance is around, just for easy math's sake, it's 2,000 calories. And that'd
Okay.
be for a fairly active person. It's probably a little lower, but I'm just saying, like, let's say 2,000 calories for a woman. So on average, the percentage of calories from fat should be, on average, should be anywhere from 10 to 20% for weight loss. You could eat a little bit more. This is where we get into the nuance of, are you going to go a little higher fat? Are you going to go like how we want to, how we would set up the macronutrients to be in alignment with a type of style of eating. But on average, I think it's fair to say, if you're someone who wants to lose weight, you want to err on the lower fat diet, but still have it like 10 to 20%. So what that means is that, let's say that it's 10%, just because I just moved the decimal over one. So that's about 200 calories in my day. That should be, that's my allowance for healthy fat. And I'm going to get my almond butter real quick. Because I love almond butter too. So my almond butter, I love the Marinantha No Stir Crunchy. My almond butter for 2 tablespoons is 200 calories. So depending on what you add to that yogurt, I mean, the challenge with peanut butters is that that's generally the only thing that I still measure, but it's a really easy thing. A smear dollop is probably a serving or more. It's just the way we go. We dip, or sometimes we dip a second time, and those calories add up fast. Like a little bit of extra could be not just 10 calories, probably 100 calories. Because if you were to weigh, I can show you what it looks like. It's really a dollop. That's the 30 grams. Most servings are 30 grams of peanut butter or 2 tablespoons, but a tablespoon is relative. Like, is it rounded, right? So
Right. Yes.
I would say if you're looking to be healthy, my suggestion is to, those are some simple strategies to cut some calories out of your diet without probably taking away. Because you don't want to cut protein and some of the carbs because those are fill you up. They really fill you up. Nuts, butters, and seeds, they are important, but you get a lot of healthy fats in the food you're already eating. And when you look to just maybe have half of the amount of peanut butter or a peanut butter replacement, which is in a yogurt, it's wonderful and it's nothing. It's like hardly any fat. So I think there's some other options to consider. But to me, if I'm going to help somebody make some choices on how they're going to maybe tweak their diet, we actually look at the amount of fat first, because that's a real simple change that doesn't feel like you're losing a lot. Does that make sense? A volume,
Yeah.
because you want volume because we want to feel like we're eating a lot.
Right. No, that does help. Thank you so much.
But you also got to like your yogurt. So there's
Yes.
there's a lot of things because that plain yogurt is it's plain.
It's very plain, yeah. And then sometimes I'll just, you put that almond butter in there and it feels like I'm kind of like overindulging a little bit because I love the taste of almond butter. But then you put all of those things together and I think, well, maybe I'm eating too much, thinking that it's all healthy, and it is.
Yeah.
But then it turns out to kind of work against you.
Yeah, I think with the peanut butters, that's a common thing that people learn. And, it's having a food scale, it's $10 on Amazon, is sometimes just a really helpful learning tool
Yeah, I
that
have one of
helps you
those. Yeah.
understand. Yeah, and just, do you measure your almond butter?
Usually I put in a teaspoon.
You put in a teaspoon? A teaspoon's not that much. A
Like
tablespoon?
kind of around. It's not a leveled off teaspoon.
Yeah. Hey, just a consideration. If if you want it to have more flavor, maybe shop some of the flavored Greek yogurts that are of equal nutritional value. It may not be 100% as clean, but we're talking in the big scheme of things, like to me, that's really minor. Like, let's say that you had, like for me, I love this oikos because it tastes like a treat. And so I put a little dollop of whipped cream sometimes on top. I add in some fruit. I don't need to add additional stuff. So if you had a flavor, maybe that would help you to feel like it's just as tasty and you don't need to add the peanut butter, or experimenting with this PB Fit, or even like a little bit to your plain yogurt, a little bit of protein powder that has like, I've got a chocolate peanut butter protein powder that is wonderful in Greek yogurt, and I'm getting the added benefit of getting more protein.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do.
that sounds weird. Does yours have that vibration? I use Shaklee protein shakes. Are you familiar with those?
They're the pre-done ones.
Yeah, it's a soy protein. Is that okay?
Yes. Are you a vegan?
No.
Okay. I think it's all about taste. There are levels of quality of it's really about the essential nutrients that you get from protein. If
Mhm.
you don't have the preference, like soy is considered a vegan option versus like a whey or a casein. As a suggestion, just because you're making the investment in protein powder, there's a better quality of protein that would give you more of all of the essential amino acids. Like if you're going to add protein, it's not like that is not a bad choice. But if you next time you go to buy, maybe consider of just experimenting with a whey that there's a sort of a scale of most complete and all essential amino acids. Like most people would buy a soy base because they're vegan. They have preferences like that. So
Okay.
just, yeah.
I'm
And
not vegan, but that was
yeah.
recommended to me.
And I think protein powders it's like the wild, wild west. There's a ton. And a lot of it is just personal preference. And I have like 10 in this Amazon store if you want to look, and most people have tried them and they like them. So if you just, next time you go to buy, you can check something else out.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Hey, Erin, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, quick question about sugar. As you know, that's a struggle of mine. But it's also a struggle for my kids.
Yeah.
I have been fighting this battle for a while, and it just doesn't seem to be getting through to them. And, part of my goal with, working with you and this community is to not just, try to make myself better, but to pass these
Right.
things along to my kids. So when it comes to sugar, is there like a good, better, and best that you could recommend? For instance, if you're baking, I don't want to take treats and desserts away from my kids altogether, but if I am going to bake, is it better to use just, straight up refined sugar? Is there a better alternative? Um,
Yeah.
there's so many out there. There's the stevia and the aspartame and, just all the things. I get a little confused when it comes to that.
Yeah, me too. And so I think we can work really hard to try, like I've done this myself in the kitchen and try to recreate. I have for years been trying to recreate this protein brownie that somebody used to sell me that I can't recreate. And every time I'm in the kitchen trying to recreate something to make it healthier, I can't. And I hate the taste of it. I spend a lot of money trying. So I have a couple different answers to this. I think the answer is yes. I think when you can use a more natural substance like honey and maple syrup, I think that can be a better option. Then it becomes more about if you use like a stevia or a monk fruit. I know the monk fruit has a little bit of sugar alcohol in it. It's like, is there an aftertaste? Is there any effect on people's stomachs? So that's where it's like, how bad do I need to try versus to make something somewhat healthy, but it's still a sweet. And I kind of come from the school of thought, and believe me, Aaron, I have a sugar, I have a sugar guy too. And he's a teen. So now that he's coming to the realization, finally, like the conversation about moderation, or just like, hey, we're gonna be like, he loves cereal, and he's now eating healthier cereal, but even the healthier cereal is another aisle that is just crazy. You can't really find a cereal that's that healthy, but he loves cereal. So we just have compromised because he now get like, hey, you need to be, he's a kid also that has ADHD. That affects those children with ADHD a little bit differently. So it's now important for him to feel good, and he gets it. So we don't eat cereal during the weekdays, but he can have it on the weekend. So it kind of goes back to like some of the principles of the beginning of this conversation about, when you fully restrict, you'll have rebellion on your hands. And like, then how do you want to try? Like, how bad do you want to try to recreate it? And I know I'm not really totally answering your question. Yes, coconut sugar is another option. It's a great option, Teresa. So the options like we talked about, stevia, monk fruit, coconut sugar is one. I think I tend to go towards maple syrup. I also love dates. Have you played around with dates as your sugar replacement?
Nope, I've never tried that.
I have had a lot of success with dates. So it takes a little bit of finagling, but you get dates and you can actually grind them, and then you add a little water, you make a date syrup, and it's just about a 1-to-1 ratio. But almost anything that I use with dates, it tastes awesome. So I think you just have to keep experimenting if you want to try to whip up a concoction that feels sweet. I think you could also be thinking about um, some healthier ice creams that you can make in a blender with some like that could be a way. You could be thinking about
Hey, Amy.
yeah.
It's Melissa. You make that chocolate bar with the dark chocolate that's really good and super healthy. That does a lot. And you've got that recipe in your um in your
Yes.
in your stash. That's
Yeah. So dark chocolate has a lot of great benefits. Thanks for
as opposed to milk chocolate. Yeah. So you make that with the berries and the nuts, and it tastes fabulous.
So there's like the other aspects of sweet, freezing some berries and having a little bit of sugar on top. with some, a healthier version of ice cream, or, taking some of there's some really great tortillas, but also like, I think we've talked about this before, like Joseph's naan bread, which is super healthy. It's in the bakery department of most grocery stores, and making those into triangles with a little bit of cinnamon and sugar. I mean, there are ways you can feel like you can have like indulge like that. The Cool Whip with the sugar-free pudding is always a great one, with some Greek yogurt. That's like a massive bowl of fluff. That's super helpful to dip fruit in. So there are hacks like that. The energy balls that you could make with, and I think it's a great option for kids, with a little bit of chocolate chips in them, or any like candy, but it's just less of it. But I know you know all these things. But back to your sugar question, thanks for a reminder, Teresa. I think I think dates are one of the best strategies. Coconut sugar is a possibility. I mean, I'm constantly cooking with maple syrup and honey. I just made this granola cookie last night. It was so good. I gave it away. I can't have it around because it was just way too good. But it was fairly healthy, but a lot of healthy is not good for you. So I use maple syrup in that. So I would try those sweeteners. All right. What other questions do you have? You sure? Oh, I was going to ask you guys just a little bit of can I use the last few minutes just to, I made up some truth or myths and a few questions just to see if you were paying attention. And while I'm going to do this, I think, is Angie the only one who is not in the cafe? Are there any other new people on this call? Because I know, Lynn, you said a couple people might be joining you, right? We'd have just Angie,
Yeah.
was it?
I don't see him, so.
Okay, yeah. So Angie, and I'm gonna make sure that your crew gets this too, but Angie, I would love if you try this out and use the food coupon and just try us for free. Like, just get in our community and see what you think. And then if you will
Yeah,
not
I
hurt
would love it.
cancel.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that coupon is active for the next 48 hours. But just reach out to me if you're delayed and you want to think on it more. But it's only $19.95 a month. So yeah, check it out. Okay, so which of the following is not, and there's like no, you can just say the answer. Which of the following is not a good source of protein? Chicken breast, lentils, peanut butter, Greek yogurt.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter is what I would say too.
Yeah, a lot of people think that peanut butter is a protein. And we sort of knew that because of the conversation that Angie and I were having, but it is not a protein. It's a fat. It's a dense like type of fat too, high caloric. Truth or myth? Carbs are bad.
Myth.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's so old school. If you think carbs are bad, come talk to me. We gotta feel full, right? But what's the key? What are we gonna make sure when we're eating carbs?
There's fiber in there.
Bingo. Yes, Lynn. Yes.
Yay! There's no fiber in here.
So you're feeling sluggish in the afternoon. What are some healthy snack options to pick you up without a crash?
An apple.
Okay, an apple. I love that. I mean, I think an apple, I truthfully believe an apple a day. How could you, because that apple, it's fruit. It's going to give you some sugar. Remember we talked about
nuts.
Yeah, and nuts a good fat there too. What could you do to get it a little protein? There's no protein in maybe a little bit with the almonds, but what else could we add to that?
Piece of cheese.
Sure. I mean, we have string cheese handy. I mean, like I'm again, like that's just realistic, and it's not like I have a lot of string cheese. It's portable. A protein shake, a good like a nitrate free. We love boar's head turkey in our house. A turkey roll up. That's a good one too. Oh, we didn't talk about tortillas. So we talk about tortillas a lot in the cafe because okay, cool. I love that doughy feel. I love a burrito, and that's the same thing with breads. Just look at the back of your tortillas. There's so many options, but be picking an option that has fiber and protein because there's a ton out there, and you can do so much. You could put a smear of almond butter, crush some raspberries, roll something up. You probably have 10 to 15 grams of fiber and lots of protein. Like it gives you that satisfying feeling. So that's another one. Okay, let's do. Aha. You're at a grocery store and you see a low-fat yogurt that boasts a high amount of added sugar. This is so easy. What's the better choice? A full-fat yogurt with less sugar or the low-fat option?
Full fat.
Full fat.
Yes, every day. Every day take that because it's better. It's first of all, a lot of those full fat options, I was going to show you because I talk a lot about I'm a big fan of cottage cheese and this yogurt. It's different than the 000, but they make an Oikos Pro. It's got a little bit more fat. This tastes so creamy and good. And it's got more protein. So it's got 23 grams. So this is a great option. Just like, again, we're optimizing, we're elevating what we're eating. And cottage cheese is a great afternoon snack for a pick-me-up. Throw some fruit, nuts, maybe make it savory, put some chopped tomatoes or veggies and a little bit of everything bagel seasoning. So these are really great snack options for the afternoon. Okay, those were kind of easy. Oh, eating late at night will sabotage your weight loss efforts. Truth or myth?
Myth.
True.
I say true.
So technically, you could eat late at night, and if you're within your kind of your daily calorie in your spending budget. But the reality of it is that when we eat late night, the chances of us eating something healthy generally are low. So we usually eat unhealthy at night. And there is something to be said about your body having a rest of processing food, even healthy foods. It takes away, believe it or not, like I like to think about wrapping up your eating after dinner is like fast forwarding energy for tomorrow because you're giving your body a break from having to process the food that you eat, especially if you were eating at like 9 or 10, like an hour before you go to bed. Your body first has to prioritize processing that food. So then it's delayed or you don't get to fully process all of the recovery, the regeneration, all of the processes that are happening at night for your body to repair and recover. So if you've ever, it's not just by chance you might feel groggy or not feel as clear-minded. It's just your body had to prioritize that food. So, and like we were talking about some of the strategies when I'm first working with someone, like one of the first things we do is we talk about just stopping eating after dinner. That's just usually immediately I see people enjoy a lot of benefits from that. It's a little way of doing a little bit of intermittent fasting, but it's just they're not eating. They usually snacking at night. So eat a big dinner, have a lot of fiber, have vegetables, a salad, have some like a good piece of steak, like eat a big dinner, feel full. And then if you have a craving, you probably just having a craving, pop a piece of gum in your mouth, have a cup of tea, walk, and I doubt you'll want to eat and without even reducing your calories, without major like changes, you will probably start to see some benefits in how you feel and for weight management. So that was a little bit of a trick question, Lynn. All right. Did I miss anything? Any burning questions?
No, that was
This was
so helpful.
very helpful.
Yes, very much.
This is like
Thanks,
me
Amy.
being on a playground. So thank you so much.
Good.
And we have a cafe call tomorrow. Angie, if you want to come and just join, I'll give you the information. But I hope to see you soon. And I hope everybody remember one thing I just want to share with you, because I know some of you work and just can't make that Friday call.
Mhm.
People tell me all the time, they just when you reply back to my group text, it only comes to me. So you see that comment, you'd be like, you can't make it, or hey, tell me more about this, or I want to find a recipe. I speak to your questions, I talk about them, and then you can just fast forward and you can hear, or I'll just text you back if you don't want to go to the length of even listening. So use me as a way to help, just help keep supporting you. Thanks again. This is fun. Have a great day.
This was
Night.
wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Amy.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good night, ladies.
Good night.